Which app takes the most time of yours to be productive? If your answer is email, then keep watching. I have figured out a way to spend less time while using email using N8N and AI automation workflows. And in this video, I'm going to tell you how exactly you can do it by answering three questions. What is N8N and why it is so popular? How does it work and what can you do with it? And finally, how we can automate Gmail using N8N. So what is N8N? N8N is a no-code automation platform where we can build workflows to automate our. And by low code, it means that we don't have to write any code. Before I can explain about the workflows, let me tell you about the node. N8N comes pre-installed with Node for AI, for action in an app, for data transformation. How the nodes work. Let's take a code example. And if the word code scares you, then think of it as a logical state. A is equals to 10. If A is greater than 5, A is equals to A. Is it possible to build this logic in N8N? I'm going to take three nodes, a set node, an if node, and another set node. A is equals to 10. For that, I'm going to launch this first edit field, add a field, give it a name A, type value 10, click test, and we got the output A10. So this node has an input which is empty and output as A. What that means is, if we see the node graph, there is an arrow pointing inwards and then there is a arrow pointing outward. The arrow pointing inwards is the input of the node and the arrow pointing outwards is the output of this node is input for the next node, which is an if node. As you can see, if A is greater than 5, how can we write that? We'll take the current value of A and we'll compare it if A is greater than 5 and let's test it. So our condition where A, the value 10, is greater than 5, which is true. So we got an output in the true branch and no output for the false. What that means is there was only one input coming into the if node, but there are two outputs going out, true and false. Since our condition was true, the true path got activated. Now coming on to our last edit field node, as we can see, the output of the if node is input here. A is equals to A plus 1. We'll again name the field as A, type, we'll pick the current value of A. If we test it, A is 11, which is 10 plus 1 is. So this node graph represents the same code that we started. And this is also a workflow. What is a workflow? A workflow is a set of nodes connected together where each node performs a small portion of a task, but together they complete the whole task. After creating the workflows, how do you run them? There are three key ways to run a workflow. There are triggers, sub-workflow execution, and webhook. You can trigger a workflow based on a certain schedule or by using popular apps, WhatsApp or Telegram. There are many times when you want to run a certain workflow repeatedly by passing different data every time. That is where sub workflow execution comes handy, where you can divide your workflow into smaller sub workflows and then execute them parallelly. And finally, there are webhooks, which gives your workflows a link. And when you make requests to these links, your workflow will run. There are special kind of webhooks for forms where you can see the form and then you can also submit it. Once you learn how to build workflows and run them, you can build many powerful ones. To see the example for few of those, visit my channel and click on the Shorts tab, where I'm building a unique workflow every day and share. So how can we automate Gmail? If you recall, while building our first workflow a few minutes back, we started with a small piece of code. We can use the same technique to create our automation on Gmail. So let's get into N8N, where I'll show you how we can automate Gmail using N8N. To create our Gmail workflow automation, I'm going to start with a trigger. I'm searching for Gmail, and then inside it, I'm searching for on message received. A few minutes back, when I was talking about how to run your workflows, there was a way called triggers. And I also mentioned there are various app triggers, WhatsApp, Telegram. Similarly, there is a trigger for Gmail. What this Gmail trigger does is, whenever an email is received in your Gmail inbox, it will listen for that. So the first thing that we need to add is our Gmail account. And if you don't have your Gmail account added, you can click the drop down and click on create new credentials. And I will link to my video where I have mentioned about creating new credentials. We'll leave the poll times for every minute. We want it to check for our emails for every minute, but it depends on a workflow. You can also change it from minute to hour to day and even custom. Event is always message received and that is the only event possible. We'll keep the simplify on as it removes a lot of unnecessary data that Gmail API sends to us and we can pass the message very easily. So I'm going to click on fetch test event, which will run this node. I've received the output from this Gmail node, which is the latest message from my inbox. That means this node is working correctly and I can close this node. Now the next node I want to add into this workflow is the if node. So I'll search for if. And just earlier, the output of the Gmail node is the input for this if node. This if node also has two branches, a true and a false branch. Let me open this if node by double click on. So the output of the previous Gmail node is the input of this if node. And here I'm interested in the from field. So I'll put out a condition $json.from, and I want it is equals to this particular email address. And when I click test it, again we have got the output in two branches, a true and a false. Since JSON from, which is in this case is from a Quora digest, is not equal to my mentioned email here. So this condition has become false and the output has come from the false branch. Depending on your use case, you may want to add the next node in the false branch or the true branch. In my case, I want to add it to the true. So I want to send a WhatsApp message. I'm searching for WhatsApp. And here the action is send message. So again, like in the Gmail node, the first thing I need to add is my credentials. And the resource will be message operation is send. And here I'm going to enter my phone and then send myself a message whenever I receive an email. And that's it. So just with these three nodes, we have defined a workflow where when we receive an email in our inbox, and if it is from a particular address, then I'm going to receive a WhatsApp notification. We have built a very simple workflow for Gmail automation. And next, I'm going to enhance it with AI using large language model. So let's go and do that. After receiving the WhatsApp notification, I also want to use an AI large language model to compose a reply and send it back to the same Gmail address. So I'm going to add a new large language model. I'll click on plus here and select LLM and click on basic LLM chain. This basic LLM chain is also another node with its own input and output. Before proceeding ahead, let me talk a little bit about every LLM has a system message, which is what gives a characteristic or a personality to the large language model, which is where we define its role and the task that it needs to perform. We are going to add a system message to this LLM node as well. After clicking on add prompt, I'm selecting the message type as system and then entering this as a system prompt. For the user message, it is expecting an input with the field chat input, but we don't have any input for the field, so we have to create it. For that, we are going to use set node. Just while setting the value of A, we are going to set a field name chat input, and I want to set the value from my Gmail trigger. After selecting it, I want to set the value of a snippet. So I'll just drag and drop that snippet field here, and it will automatically write the expression required to take the dynamic value from the snippet field and enter it. This basic LLM chain itself will not be able to do anything if we don't add any large language model to it. For every node which has an input and output, this node has an additional edge, which is a model. When we click on the plus sign here, I'm going to see the list of all the large language models available. So I'm going to select Google Gemini. And again, we need to add our own credentials. And I want to select the model Gemini Flash 2.0. So this node is enabled with a Google Gemini model and a system prompt that helps it write a reply back to the email. After the reply is written, it has to be sent back to the Gmail. So for that, I'm going to add another Gmail node. I'll click on Gmail and I'll select reply to a message. Here we need to pass the message ID for the same message we want to reply it. So I'll select the Gmail trigger and there we have the ID of the message that we received. So I'm just going to drag and drop it here. This is very important that you take the same ID as we received it from the Gmail. Otherwise, it will not be able to reply it back to the same message. And for the message here, I'm going to change this drop down to the basic LLM chain node. And this is the reply from our Gemini model. So I'm going to take this text field and add it here as a message. And with this, we have enhanced our workflow that uses AI to compose a reply for our received message and send it back as a reply. How confident are you feeling about N8N? Have you acquired all the required to create your own workflows? Please comment below if you have any further questions on this topic. To recap, we have learned that N8N is a low-code automation tool to build your own workflow. And I've also explained how you can use N8N nodes to create your own workflows and run them. And finally, we created a Gmail automation workflow where upon receiving a message from a particular sender, it was sending us a WhatsApp notification. And then we enhanced it to use a large language model to prepare a reply and send it back to the same sender via Gmail. If you like this video, then please subscribe to my channel where every week I'm doing a deep dive into an N8N workflow and creating a unique workflow almost every day and sharing it in my Google Shorts. You can also find me on LinkedIn where I'll be happy to connect with you. Thank you for watching this video. Until